I know they did football, but forget that. Right, so
this is leaving the rails, isn't it? Quite quickly.
We've got out on the toon, right, with the Newcastle side. Allardyce has gone up there. Obviously, they could come up with their own one. What now? That needs a name as well. Carry on. I'll get a name.
I don't actually know what's going on right now.
Listeners, welcome back. Is it episode 11? I do this at the start of every show. I forget. Is it 11?
It is.
11.
I'm just going to shake my head and shrug.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Callum Keane, Jack Peachman, welcome back to For The Fans this week. How are you both?
Hello.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not bad.
Good. Well, I'm pleased. As ever, we're going to start the show off with Ben's mystery feature of the week. The jingle's back. It's been away for the last few weeks.
Delighted.
Now, I have given you a little bit of sort of a hint of what this week's feature is. You can tell the listeners what I've told you if you like.
Does it count as a hint? Because you said it's not really a quiz, but it is a quiz.
Well, it's technically a quiz, but it's a different style of quiz. And there is the chance to steal.
Do we ask the questions and you have the answers?
I have the questions and the answers. Although they're not really questions as much as they are. It's a Guess the Footballer quiz, gentlemen. I am going to give you information on a footballer based on their style of play. Now, if you get it after one clue, 5 points. If you get it after 2 clues, 3 points. And if you get it after 3 clues, 1 point. If you don't get it, the other person gets a chance to steal and gets the maximum. And then it gets 1 point, we'll say, because they've had all the clues.
Where did you get the budget for this?
I've made this myself. So, who would like to go first?
Jack, go on. I went first last week.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
I'll offer myself as tribute.
Okay, there are 5 different footballers, and I will say the word blank when obviously their name would probably feature. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Clue number 1. A superb dribbler, Blank is very fluid and creative in his runs. I should say all these players are Premier League footballers.
Do we get a guess after each
Sure,
clue?
yeah, sure.
I'll go with Pedro.
Incorrect, but thank you for your guess. As a playmaker, Blank has great vision and is able to deliver the precise pass to his teammates.
This is very vague.
You've got
I'll
2
go
now,
with Juan Mata.
Juan Mata?
Yeah.
Incorrect.
Really
Blank is extremely effective in building up the play in areas higher up the pitch, and his cunning runs as well as skillful short-range passing make him a threat in and near the opponent's box. For the final clue.
We're literally describing any playmaker who plays in the final third for a Premier League team.
I'm not, because Kevin Nolan does not fit this. But go on. I mean, he's actually left West Ham.
Could I have it used in a sentence, please?
Blank is extremely effective. Go on.
Damn it. A playmaker.
I think I might know.
I'll go with Williams.
Incorrect. Callum?
Mesut Ozil?
No, the correct answer was Oscar.
Okay.
0 points.
Right.
This is quite difficult.
You did, and he said Mata.
This is quite difficult.
It is. Well, I think that's probably the toughest one of the lot.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready, Jack? Next one.
Yeah, I'm preparing myself.
He is an energetic forward, creative forward, but also who combines technical skill with strength and physicality, which enables him to excel in the air.
Christian Benteke.
Incorrect.
Ooh, that was a good guess, actually.
I said that with so much. I said that with so much confidence, and you've just shot me down.
Sorry. Despite not being particularly tall, he is a versatile attacker capable of playing anywhere along the front line as a striker, support forward, or even as a winger.
Danny Ings.
Incorrect.
In
more recent years, he has even been deployed in a deeper, more creative role as an attacking midfielder.
If this is Wayne Rooney, I'm going to cry.
What's your guess?
Wayne Rooney.
Correct.
Hey.
1 point.
Gosh, wow.
Well done.
It's a bit generous to say he can play anywhere. I think by choice he would play anywhere. But
I'll tell you where I sourced this information for after the quiz. Next one. When he first came into the under-18s as a 15-year-old, he stood out in the sense he looked a bit gangly. He moved slightly awkwardly.
Peter Crouch.
Incorrect.
You've wasted a guess there, Jack.
He was a bit cumbersome, but look closer, and he had a lot of ability. Great technique. I think he surprised people with how good he was.
Are we sure this isn't Peter Crouch?
Yes.
Just a second. Andy Carroll.
Incorrect.
Is the fact he was 15 a clue?
Tactically, well, he's relatively younger. Tactically, he was very flexible. He often played in midfield. I remember seeing him once playing as a holding midfielder. That clue's not helpful. Go on.
Oh, gosh. Are these all going to be from Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography?
No, it's not. It's not a United player. There's an extra clue for you.
Oh, defensive midfielder. That's not the clue, though, is it?
I remember seeing him once playing as a holding midfielder. Once playing.
It's got to be a striker then, because you wouldn't say.
What's his name?
Like Lukaku.
5, 4.
Lukaku.
Incorrect. The correct answer is Harry Kane.
Oh, I was going to say John Stones. But
Oh yeah, you had a guess. Sorry, Callum.
I would have guessed John Stones, but
Okay, Jack. Next clue. He is known as a versatile attacker due to his ability to use both feet equally well, though he often played the role of a second striker. I mean, still does.
Bloody hell. Who came up with
This
these
is very-
It narrows it down. It narrows it down.
both feet.
Can you use both feet? There's a lot of professional footballers who can use both feet. And a secondary striker.
Well, less than you'd think, but
All right.
Oh, there's only one choice for this. It's got to be Theo Walcott.
Incorrect. He can play either side of a second striker as well as the first striker and has done so for club and country.
Can I say Theo Walcott? I'm not saying him again, but it still sounds like Theo.
A name, a Premier League footballer.
Bloody hell.
This is not helpful.
My mind's now gone blank of footballers. I want to go with someone like Troy Deeney, but he hasn't played for England, so that isn't going to work.
I'm going to
go with I'll go with Yannick Bolasie.
Incorrect.
He's not really a striker, is he?
this is poor, Jack.
From being in Germany,
to be fair, these questions
I don't care
are
where
ridiculous.
I play. The main thing is I'm in the game. I can play as a second striker or in behind. I gave you an extra clue there.
Raheem Sterling.
Played in Germany. I'll give you another guess.
In Germany? I don't know. Is it? No, I don't know. Keno, you come in
Callum
and
Keane?
just show me I'm an
Kevin
idiot.
De Bruyne?
Incorrect.
Oh.
The correct answer is Ronaldo's replacement, Son.
Ah.
But never mind.
Okay.
I mean, this is. I don't know if this is too hard.
It is very hard. I will.
Jack. Blank is well known for his blistering pace. With former Barcelona manager Pep Guardiola declaring, "You would need a pistol to stop him."
Is the fact Guardiola said it a clue?
Well, I mean, it's in the clues.
Yes.
I'll say Pedro again.
Incorrect. FIFA World Player of the Year Lionel Messi has described Blank as one of the most dangerous players I've ever played against.
Played again.
Yeah, that's
that doesn't
interesting.
really answer a lot,
No,
does it?
it could be in training.
Because it could be international.
Could be in
I'll
training.
go with Aguero.
Incorrect.
That's a good guess, though.
In addition to his speed, Blank also possesses good balance, movement and technique.
I feel like you've just got these off their Football Manager profiles.
No.
I'd like to know
far
where
more.
you've got all these clues from at the end.
I'll tell you at the end.
Okay.
So he's got good balance, he's fast, and Guardiola and Messi rate him. I mean, that really narrows down the world of football.
To be fair, it's
It
not going
does.
to be like. It's not going to be. Obviously, also okay. He's playing in the Champions League. He's a Champions League quality player, and he's currently in the Premier League, and has to have played against Barcelona
think I
at some
know.
point.
Oh, actually, no.
I'll pass. Keno can just get
Keno?
it.
Oh, playing against Barcelona has thrown me because I would have said Alexis Sanchez. Is that not right?
Are you going with Sanchez?
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Incorrect. The correct answer is Theo Walcott.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, and I said it before.
You did say it earlier. Right,
Can I have a half a
so
point
Jack,
for
after
saying it
5
earlier?
clues, 5 players, you've gained 1
One.
point.
I mean, it's a very hard quiz.
Out of a possible 25 points.
I think even the
You
listeners
got
can
1 point.
appreciate that this is quite a difficult feature.
Okay.
Is this really a feature? I feel like this is like a grueling endurance
This is the
test
best.
of
This
some
is the
kind.
best feature I've ever done. So I'll have less of that. There wasn't many goals this weekend.
No.
There wasn't, that's true.
Right, Callum, ready?
Yeah.
Well, you got to beat a score of 1.
Okay.
So we'll go through all of them for the sake of it.
I can still
Jack
gain
can still
1.
win technically, yeah. If you don't get it right.
And I could guess off him.
True. Blank plays primarily as a box-to-box midfielder, often switching between offensive and defensive stances throughout matches.
Okay. Yaya Toure.
Incorrect. 5 points already in the lead.
Right, that was right.
Thanks, Jack.
Right, can we just end the feature now? Because I can't win.
Well, you can win. If
I have to steal the next 4.
All right, 2 points for a steal. How's that? I'm changing the rules.
Okay.
Can we make it 3?
Blank has been compared to Ivory Coast striker Didier Drogba and former Italian forward Christian Vieri.
When I think Drogba, I think Lukaku. Yeah, Lukaku.
Incorrect.
Okay.
He has also been referred to as a classic centre forward, owning to his strength, powerful shot, and excellent heading ability.
Graziano Pelle?
Incorrect.
That's a good shout.
Former Newcastle manager and Liverpool player Blank has stated he is probably in the top 3 headers of the ball I've ever seen in football.
Oh. Andy Carroll.
Correct.
Yes.
Point for the manager?
Keggy. No.
Correct. It was
Shearer.
It was Kevin Keegan.
It was. Of course it was.
Right, let's just
because Kevin Keegan hasn't played because Alan Shearer hasn't played for Liverpool. Right.
I didn't listen to that bit. I thought there was 2 separate people who said he was really good at heading.
Largely operates in the next one. Largely operates in the centre, but he is versatile enough to provide an option on the wing, either left or right. That is not helpful. Because he doesn't ever play there.
Doesn't ever play in the middle or doesn't ever play on the wing?
Doesn't really play on the wing.
Okay. Ross Barkley.
Incorrect. He is regarded as one of the best midfielders in the world. Blank possesses a fearsome shot from range as well as a wicked delivery from set pieces.
Stuart down.
Oh.
Championship player.
One of the best midfielders in the world. Is that Mesut Ozil again?
Incorrect.
You really love
I mean,
Ozil,
depending
don't
on
you?
depending on your view.
Dubbed, you can see it's not Ozil.
It's not Fabian Delph, is it?
Dubbed the midfield motor, Blank is also a superb reader of the game and has scored spectacularly due to his good positioning. He has been called the brain of his national team.
This is a really
the brain
good.
being a nickname.
This is a really good one, but I don't know.
I'm ready for the steal.
Good.
Okay.
And to be disappointed.
Yeah. The brain. As in the nickname. That's his nickname.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
it's not
I'm going to give you 5 seconds.
Cesc Fabregas?
Incorrect. Jack?
Schweinsteiger.
Correct.
Oh.
Callum Keenan has met him and got a picture with him, which is even
The
funnier.
group chat picture is me with Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, it is. 2 points to Jack then.
So I get 6 points for that one, yeah?
2 points, yeah. Next then.
I'll take it.
Despite playing as a deep-lying midfielder, Blank does not rely on physical attributes and tackling like a typical ball-winning midfielder.
See, I don't know where you've got this from, because if it was quite recent, it could be referring to Santi Cazorla, who's been playing there. But I'm not. I don't think it will be, so I'm trying to think very quickly of Cesc Fabregas again.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Instead of reading the game, his reading of the game, I'll repeat again. His reading of the game helps him anticipate any attacking threats from the opposition team, most of the time by covering space and making interceptions.
It's funny because there's not that many. You could apply that to Schweinsteiger, and there's not that many.
You could.
Michael Carrick.
Correct.
Yes.
3 points. Proving that the quiz isn't rubbish.
But you said there were 2 points for a second round.
No, it's 3.
Jack, I've won, mate.
Right, well,
5-3-1. 5-3-1.
Can I just interject here?
Sure.
Last week in the comments, people said I had the harder questions. I feel like I've got the harder ones again. So if you agree, please tweet justice for Jack.
One of your answers was Wayne Rooney. Maybe not.
It was, but then it wasn't very obviously Wayne Rooney.
Final one, Callum.
Yeah.
I think is it final one?
Yeah.
Okay. Blank is known for his movement, vision, passing and combination play, as well as his leadership on the pitch.
The leadership one's thrown me. Can you repeat it, sorry?
Blank is known for his movement, vision, passing and combination play, as well as his leadership on the pitch. Sorry.
I feel like...
5, 4, 3,
I don't want to say Mesut Ozil again.
1.
He's not
Incorrect.
a leader on the pitch.
Next clue. He has been described as having Spanish technique but an English heart. And during a loan spell at a club, that manager praised his ability to tackle and take a knock.
Is it Jack Wilshere?
It is. That quote from is quite funny now, considering Jack Wilshere is always injured.
He does take a knock very regularly.
Callum, I'm going to give Jack a chance to win the whole thing here. You've quite clearly won. But
okay.
I did have a decider prepared, just in case. Jack.
Well, this can be the decider for last week's feature, which didn't have a winner.
You can have your moral victory.
This week, by the way. The feature's dominant. Okay, and hopefully the people at home have been listening in. If you've done well, do tweet us or leave a comment on the YouTube video. This is it. Fastest name first wins, okay? Yeah?
Okay.
He is known for his high work rate, relentless running, and direct approach. He's also an extremely fast and dynamic striker who is good in the air and capable of striking the ball with both feet.
Lukaku.
Keep guessing until you get it right.
Benteke.
Jamie Vardy.
Correct.
Giroud.
Callum Keane.
Easy.
Just give up.
I'd just like to thank our sponsor for the week, Wikipedia, and their playing style section on Wikipedia. So, yeah, thanks for that. Keena, you've won by a sizable margin.
Other encyclopedia.
You know when you go on Wikipedia and they say, we need donations to keep us running. I'm not going to feel guilty when I close them anymore.
All right,
I'm not.
Other encyclopedia sites are available.
That is Ben's feature of the week. A tough one this week, boys. Yeah.
A long one too.
Challenging, but there were, as has been put in our notes, very low scoring weekend. Was put in by Callum Keane, which we can agree with, and we'll start actually with a 0-0. Keno, it's the first time you saw Remy Gard in action on the touchline, and of course you were there. And your boys, despite having quite a poor start to the season, got themselves a 0-0 against likely Premier League winners Manchester City. Talk us through it.
I thought I don't normally agree with Jermaine Genius, it should be said, but he was right in the sense that. It was one of the biggest turnarounds in performance style that I've seen, in the space of a week in 2 games. Yes, we didn't see. I think that the thing about the shot on target thing, we didn't have a shot on target. We had 3 off target. Gesteg came close. City only had 3 on target too, and we actually in the first half managed to control them quite well. We did. Ride our luck a little bit, quite significantly. But yeah, I was incredibly impressed with only 3 sessions with the players, how organised we were, and what a contrast it was to recent performances.
I think the question I've wanted to ask you since we were going to record this is, what's the difference between that and what Tim Sherwood did when he first came in? I want to know if there's much of a difference there.
Yes, I think there is. Just having seen 90 minutes of us play under guard, there is and also having been watching very closely when Sherwood first came in too. I think there's a huge difference because immediately you could see a slightly more pragmatic, organised way that we were going to go about the game. So
it felt like there was a lot more in-game management.
Yeah,
which we didn't necessarily see from Sherwood.
Yeah, there was a clear. It was obvious there was a clear plan. First half, we defended quite well by keeping the ball. Like we had, I think we had 52% possession in the first half. We shaded it, and that actually struck me as quite a good way to deal with City because we kept it really well. They were tired after the game in the week, and that was quite obvious. Actually, Touré's touch was poor and he came off. And we kept it really well, and that was a really good way to sort of go into at half-time 0-0. When Sherwood came in, just to kind of answer that question, it summed him up in the sense that he quickly got them going, and it was all sort of gung-ho, and we had the 2 Albion Cup ties straight after he came in, and it was classic Tim Sherwood tactics, Tim, sort of blood and thunder. He G'd up the players, which at the time was what they needed, but now we need a bit more pragmatism and organisation, and God, I think, is bringing that.
Well, good. Jack, on the other side of it, City and Fabian Delph, who I love by the way, I love the snakes. The
inflatable snakes, name of the podcast.
That is the name of the podcast this week.
The inflatable snakes. There was 2 people with them. I mean,
my favourite thing is whenever you see Delph post on Instagram, there's just people who reply with just emoticons of snakes for an entire line of a comment.
It did only look like there were 2 people on the pit in the stands with snakes. There were a lot of snakes. I don't know where they were getting them from. They were all the same.
I'd like to think a man outside was like, well, here's an opportunity. He's had those snakes for weeks. Ever since Gareth Barry left, he was like, I've got loads of snakes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these when Fabian Delph makes a transfer somewhere else. Was it loud? The reaction for Delph?
Oh,
It seemed really loud on TV.
It was the worst reception that an ex-player's got that I can remember. Wow. I've been going for over 15 years.
The thing is, when a player leaves, like especially going to City, sometimes you go, well, fair enough, he's gone for money, he's gone because it's a bigger club. I think it was the way in which he left has left a very sour taste in everyone at Villa's mouth.
We didn't talk about it that much because obviously we only started recording quite a few weeks after it happened in the summer. But I think if he'd have just left straight away, there would have been maybe a little bit, maybe in the same way that there is for Ashley Young. But it was the 6-day reversal.
I feel like with Ashley Young, it's just a bit of banter, whereas with Delph, it's real hatred.
Yeah. And
I think, much like Remy Gard, Delph was just being pragmatic about his transfer situation. I think you're a hypocrite, Callum King.
I don't think.
A bit of pragmatism from Delph.
I don't think committing his future and then reversing it 5 days later was pragmatic. If anything, it was just a bit stupid. But
can we talk about City, because they've not won in 3?
Yeah.
Like, is Pellegrini out? Is that a hashtag we should get going now?
I think there's a lot more managers on the chopping block before Pellegrini.
All I'm going to say is, they beat Norwich, didn't they? I feel like they've not done that well recently. I'm trying to think of what their games are.
I feel like they have done quite well recently.
They were fantastic.
I mean, what a podcast this is, by the way. Jack's not sure. I'm not entirely.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
No, it's away from home. They've not been doing very well.
Oh,
they've lost 1, drawn 2. Like, is that a worry? Because it seems to me like maybe teams can just shut up shop against City.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if that becomes a thing. I think
is that the lack of Aguero, though? I mean, you end the game with Kelechi Iheanacho up front alongside De Bruyne and Jesus Navas. That is not your strongest kind of, I guess, attacking force, is it?
When I think of an away City performance, I often think of David Silva, and they've been without him for a little while. And I think away from home, he is the kind of player that unlocks the door as such.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I was looking at the City bench. It was really weirdly defensive. Like, it's like they don't have the options in depth, which I don't know if that's because they've obviously got rid of, like, Dzeko, for example, and also I can't remember what the Montenegrin guy's name is now. Jovetic, thank you. But look, you look at their bench: Caballero, Jesus Navas, Delph, Mangala, Kelechi Di Michaelis, Iheanacho. Really, only Iheanacho and Navas are, players you can bring on to really, I guess, what's the word, galvanise a team in a second half.
It's funny you mention that because Boney got injured after 25 minutes, and he didn't bring. How would you say his name, Jack? You're very well versed in it. And he didn't bring him on. He didn't bring the striker on. He brought Navas on and decided to put De Bruyne playing as some sort of weird false nine thing.
Well, they didn't have another striker on the bench, really, apart from Iheanacho. He before, because obviously Boney came off quite early, De Bruyne went straight away into the sort of false nine, and then they only made that change in the second half. So, yeah, they were like that for a while. They didn't really struggle to create chances, though. I think it was more that they didn't take them.
I was really confused because I was like, is he going for some kind of weird, football magic exploit tactic where you play with like 2 centre attacking mids who are shadow strikers and no striker, and it kind of abuses the defence? Didn't really work.
No. And you asked the question, is it a worry for City, their away form? I mean, the obvious answer is just to say no, because they're top of the league after 12 games and they've only dropped, what would it be? Not that many points.
I also don't think they played that badly. I think
Villa were just better.
No, I mean they were City were the better team, but we didn't give them too many opportunities to kind of sit on top of our box until the very end, obviously, and sort of camp out. So I think they were restricted to like the odd really good chance sort of every 10 minutes or so. There wasn't until obviously the last sort of 10 minutes there wasn't like a barrage onto the box. And they didn't.
Delph nearly scored, didn't he?
Oh my goodness!
One of Delph's 3 touches. That would have been a moment.
It was very close as well. It was very, very, very close.
It was actually on TV. It was quite quiet. It was cleared, and everyone was getting a bit excited. And then Delph just sort of puts it in. And this sort of stunned silence.
Can you imagine the inflatable snakes being thrown on the pitch if that happened?
I imagine real snakes would have been let loose. Yeah, that would have been great. Some actual snakes. But a good point for Villa. I think City will. I think when a new manager comes in, the other team often feel like they're going to be up for it. There's going to be a battle. And actually, when it comes to the end of the season, it's the sort of game that if Villa had won, you wouldn't have even been that shocked about because of obviously the new manager and whatnot.
I think
City will be disappointed, but kind of realised that that could have gone a bit worse.
And they're still up there. They're still top of the league. It's not the end of the world. Lots of teams are dropping points. There's no real sort of Chelsea of last year, so I don't think they'll be that worried. I think for us, just quickly going forward, that was the exact way that we needed to approach that game. And it'd be interesting to see, although we didn't create much, it'd be interesting to see how that works against a slightly lesser defence, because Jordan Ayew was on his own up front. He actually picked a good, our best players in the right positions. Gabby was nowhere near the team. And it'll be interesting to see how Ayew would get along when he's not playing Otamendi and company, which obviously is a fantastic defence. So, lots of time to fix it, and I think we'll be fine.
I'm going to ignore the running order slightly, gentlemen, and go down to Arsenal Spurs, because I just want to, because obviously we'll City atop. I thought we'd move to second place to Arsenal, who, for the first time this season, I would argue probably the first time this season, spent most of the game on the back foot, Jack. And we've not seen an Arsenal team put under that sort of pressure, have to fight against that kind of work rate, and it wasn't great for them.
No, do you think midweek's game had a bit of an impact in it, where they went to Bayern Munich and got thumped? Because as much as that game, you probably don't expect to beat Munich. I just feel like losing 5-1, I don't know if that can leave a dent in confidence, but they look slightly hungover, I guess, from it early on in the game, and especially in the first half.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see Tottenham carry on this sort of run. It's been quite documented now that they've not lost since the opening weekend. We're in November now, and obviously all the talk is Chelsea not being in and around that top 4, 5, 6 places. Are Tottenham serious Champions League contenders at this point? I'll open that up to anyone, Jack.
It's a weird situation, isn't it? Because there is this big question as to who is the fourth team in the top 4, with Chelsea looking like they're going to be vacating that this year. Who is that team to make a breakthrough? And I think we'll freely admit, as Liverpool fans, you want it to be your team that capitalises on that mistake, because this is not an opportunity that comes around very often in the Premier League, where there is a space in the top floor which is is kind of very much up for grabs.
Yeah, well, it'll be curious. Keane, you were impressed by Tottenham, though. You thought Tottenham looked really good.
I thought it was the first time in a few weeks that I'd watched, because I didn't really watch the Villa Spurs game because I knew what was going to happen. I didn't watch it very closely. It was the first time I'd watched Spurs.
True fan.
It was the first time I'd watched Spurs really closely against a top team since. It was for a few weeks. It might have been the Chelsea game, or I can't remember. But they were incredibly impressive, and I think it was. The reason that they didn't close it out, I don't think they properly Spursed it up, actually. I think just the reason they didn't close it out was they were missing a little bit of experience in the midfield, particularly towards the end. I was massively impressed by the way that they pressed, and I really like that midfield three of Dyer, Dembele and Dele Alli, who was really, really good again. But I think just they suffered slightly from just being a little bit inexperienced. There was a slight bit of a lack of bite towards the end to kind of just close it out after their pressing, after they got tired and they couldn't press as much. But apart from that, now Kane's beginning to score again, which is great for England, going into the internationals.
Took his goal really nicely as well.
He did,
actually.
Yeah, he did. He got a little bit lucky with the way that it bounced over Chet, but yeah, it was a good finish. It was good movement as well to get between the centre halves. I'm really, really impressed by Spurs, actually.
It's really annoyed me recently how people have been getting on Kane's back after kind of a slowish start to the season.
You predicted that he'd have a decent season, I think.
Yeah.
I think early, and that's what I'm talking. Sorry, Keane, I'm talking to Jack.
Sorry, I think we all kind of agreed on it, though.
I said he'd have a good season. I had one United fan, I'm not going to call out your name, but you tweeted me after 5 games saying, "One season wonder, glad we didn't sign him." Now you look like a nut.
Well, I think it's a really
kind of
it's a really good.
Don't stop scoring now, please. Harry.
It's a really good kind of estimation of his character. The fact that he's had that run and now he's back scoring. He's got 5 in the last 3. It's a really positive sign for just his development going forward. The fact that he could have that slump after his amazing season and just slowly work his way back into form, because you often see them just drop off a cliff and not recover.
Yeah. There's a lot
Has he scored 3 in his last 2?
Kane, yeah. I think he's got, is it more like 4 in his last 5, including England? 5
and 3 in the Premier League he's got.
That's not shabby, is it?
It's not bad,
really?
Is it? on the Arsenal side of things, we saw Mesut Ozil have an indifferent performance, and I should clarify that by saying he's had a fantastic season so far. But it was the sort of game where when Arsenal are being overrun, I've sort of brought this up before, Mesut Ozil doesn't suit that side. And the reason I bring this up is because Arsenal's bench this weekend, we spoke about City's being slightly defensive and somewhat underwhelming. I think Arsenal had 4 or 3 defenders, as well as Ospina, Flamini and Arteta. And Iwobi, and I'm sorry Arsenal fans, I'm not fully aware of who.
I feel like I mentioned this. I feel like I talked about this a few weeks ago, that I was worried if Arsenal had a few injuries in the final third, that could be a problem for them. And then I think it was Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain both got injured like the next week.
Yeah, the thing that annoys, the reason I bring it up, the thing that annoys me about it is people say, "Oh, well, if teams have 8 injuries, that's going to be a problem for any team." It's like, well, If say Chelsea have that problem or City have that problem, maybe not so much this season, but in past few years, they've always had people to come in. Their 25-man squad has always been good enough, and I think that is the key issue. And it's really the only doubt against Arsenal's name is that their 25-man squad isn't as good as I guess Chelsea are out the running now, but Man United's and Manchester City's, and that could be the thing that stops them winning the title this year. And that would be a massive shame because it's and to me at least it seems so unavoidable, and it's been a problem for years for Arsenal.
I think, it's interesting how they seem to get the amount of injuries that they do as well. There's a pattern that always seems to reoccur with Arsenal. They to be fair to them, they do. This time it's particularly bad. They have a lot of first team players, particularly going forward at the same time.
The thing I don't get about this is, sorry to kind of come in here, but a lot of Arsenal fans will tell you that the injuries are the reason they've drawn this game, and the injuries are the reason why they haven't really challenged for the title in the last few years. Which to a kind of extent I can sympathise with, but the bottom line is there are players in that squad who are made of glass, and you know they're made of glass, and you know you can't rely on them to be fit during the season. And so to kind of blame the injuries to players like Wiltshire, Ramsey, Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain just seems a bit kind of unfounded.
That's also true.
You know that those injuries are going to happen. You have to, be aware that is a thing and it is going to happen. And it is very bad at the moment, but at the same time, it's very predictable, I guess.
Just on Spurs, as you say, it's probably Arsenal's best chance to win the title this season. But I think with Spurs, it's really interesting as to how they might develop over the next few years, because I think bar maybe 3 or 4 like Lloris, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, a lot of that team, I think almost all the team that he put out were under 25. They're going to be together for quite a few years from now. And players like Eriksen, Dele Alli, Harry Kane, they will develop as well. They will develop together.
He was back.
Son, exactly, yeah, also young. And I could maybe see them, if not maybe next year, maybe the year after, if he keeps them together and they don't lose players. Well, maybe having a run at the title.
It's interesting you say that, because that is going to be the catch-22 for Tottenham, and it's been happening to Liverpool in sort of the most recent seasons. But if Tottenham aren't challenging, if they're not in the top 4, then you can see players, even like Harry Kane, he'll have ambitions to play in the Champions League if he carries on like he is. Christian Eriksen will want to get a move. Vertonghen will be getting frustrated with it. Lloris will want to see out his career maybe at a top club. It's going to become an issue for them. Say Son does become this great player that I think he might become. Lamela fulfills his potential. Tottenham are going to have a problem in a few years' time, that if these players don't hang around, they're going to be back to where they are right now. Well, they're not going to be here, are they? They're going to be further back down the line.
They do.
They have to replace.
They've got the new stadium on the way. And I think that will make a difference, maybe in the medium to longer term, with regards to keeping their players and kicking on a little bit further.
But that won't necessarily make them bigger than the clubs they'll be competing with for that Champions League spot. So it's all well and good getting a new ground, but
I agree with you, and I think maybe Pochettino might make a move as well, because if you look at his if you look at his development as a manager, he's really come on, even since he joined Southampton, and what he's done now over 18 months at Spurs, he's really transformed them into a kind of non-Spursy team. They've got character, they're mobile, they're fast, they're very well organised, which is not something that you'd associate with Spurs in the past. And now they're starting to convert it into more consistent results. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a move either, if they don't hit the jackpot.
Can I touch on that? Where do you see him going? Because as soon as you mentioned him potentially going somewhere, my first thought actually was, if Diego Simeone leaves Atletico to go to City or wherever he wants to go, then that could be a place Pochettino could look at. Atletico Madrid, similar style to what they're currently playing now, maybe a little bit more defensive at Atletico. I'm not sure. I guess that a bit more game on game, isn't it, with Atletico, especially in Spain.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that. One of the sort of, maybe not the top two, but one of the big Spanish teams. And after what he's done as well, consistently in the Premier League for almost 3.5 years now, everyone will be taking notice. And you could, I wouldn't say out of the question someone like Chelsea if they ever got rid of Mourinho or something like that.
That's a cool way. You're cool.
I just really think he's good enough to manage at the top level, and he's young and he's still developing. So, yeah.
I'm sure his ambition will be to take Tottenham to that level. Yeah. But much like the Premier League, it's very periodic. It's the time it's going to take. How long are some of these people prepared to stick around? And I guess it's a question mark on him. Much like any other. Obviously, he left Southampton under sort of, they were growing, they were getting better and better, but he obviously felt like they reached their limit. And
I feel like there's a glass ceiling there, though.
Well, that's what I mean. It's going to be up to Spurs to break it, and the only time we've seen it broken really is by City, more recently at least. I know Chelsea did it 15 years ago or whatever, but by City. By City. I'm all over the place. So much money.
All the money in your face. You can't see a thing.
When City spent upwards of £1 billion, haven't they, to get to where they are now, if you could include facilities and players and whatnot. So, and Tottenham certainly aren't in a position to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go in the next few years. Jack.
Yes.
Pick a game.
Can we go to Liverpool?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm going to get angry, but yeah, sure, if you like.
Right, no, let's check. I don't like angry, Ben. What else happened at the weekend? We should point out this is.
I think we should talk about Liverpool. Yeah,
let's go to Liverpool.
Don't be afraid of angry, Ben.
Ben, please don't get angry.
I'm pretty annoyed though.
I'm annoyed too, so I'll hold it in and let you say.
It's not a dear Jurgen moment. We're not at that point yet. No, we're nowhere near it. I still think Jurgen Klopp is a fantastic manager. The issue is Liverpool Football Club that if you don't actually, we slag off Arsenal saying, they've got players that are made out of glass. Well, there's another team that have got that issue. Daniel Sturridge quite clearly wasn't fit last year. It's a risk going into this season, and really, again, it's not Klopp's fault that we're in this position. But if you only score 2 goals or more in 2 games, and we're in November, that will be a problem for a team that thinks they should be in the Champions League.
Just a little bit.
The only team we've scored 2 against is Aston Villa, and Villa under Sherwood were horrendous, and Chelsea, who, I mean, it was last weekend, so it was once before last weekend. It's been 1-0s, 1-1s, 0-0s, all getting beat. And again, if you're a team trying to get into the Champions League, you need to start scoring goals. Now, the big issue is, and although Klopp's come in and he's having to deal with the players he's got, our style of play is still entirely dependent on scoring early. And as soon as we don't, nothing happens.
Yeah,
we just have the same thing happen for... And the time it actually reminds me of the most, and Liverpool fans will remember this moment, is a little bit like under Dalglish. When Dalglish came in and we had Suarez and Carroll up front, and we'd spend the first sort of 60 minutes of the game going, right, let's beat them. We're Liverpool Football Club. This is our game, right? We finished 7th that season, might be in 8th even. And then you'd spend the last half an hour of the game going, give it to Andy Carroll. Well, I hate to say it, but Benteke is going to start taking on that role more and more if this theme continues. And it's because we don't have... And again, we've got injuries and whatnot, but you've got to account for those. If you want to be in the Champions League, that's kind of tough, right? We slag off Arsenal saying, you've got to be prepared for that. I've got to say about Liverpool as well. There's not enough depth in this squad, and it's difficult to really pin the blame on anyone because of a managerial change. No. But I'm sick of watching it every... Sure, first loss in 14, but I think 10 of those are draws.
Yeah. I think one big problem for Liverpool is the fact that, as you said, just never turn up early to games. If we don't score early, then it's game over pretty much. There seems to be this panic that sets in. And, well, fair play to Crystal Palace. They came and really wanted this game. They pushed really high. They were pressing a lot. There was a nervy moment in the first minute.
They're another team, Jack, that come to Anfield with a game plan and for whatever reason are allowed to perfectly execute it.
They are becoming a bit of a bogey team, aren't they?
How do you want the game to go? We'll score first, we'll make them have to work harder for it, we'll sit back, we'll defend well. Yeah, they might score, but then later on in the game, we'll push for a second, maybe nick something. I mean, it's exactly what they want.
In the first 20 minutes, Palace had 65% of the possession. I think by the end of it, it was the other way around, and Liverpool had 60+%. But in that first spell, Palace just looked more up for it. And it was just really disappointing to see. And then there was the Sacco injury, and when I saw Lovren coming on, I started to weep. But the Sacco injury, I don't know if you've heard about what his actual injury is, but if you missed the game, he went down with an injury to his knee. And everyone's like thinking, oh gosh, and there's the stretcher by the sideline, and he kind of hobbles off really gingerly, and then he starts legging it up and down on the sideline, and you're thinking it's a miracle.
Well, but the crowd started cheering his name, and he was up and at him all of a sudden.
And then he starts jumping and doing squat thrusts, and you're thinking, oh, he's good. And then the ball gets passed to him immediately, and it's just like, it's not very good. And then 5 minutes later, he sat down on the ground, gets subbed off, and now he's got ligament damage and out for up to 6 weeks, I think I read at the moment. But I think it's a scam.
Which is not ideal.
The fact he's continued playing with ligament damage, like, I want to say fair play to you, but given the current injury situation, that's just fucking stupid. It really
Explicit.
is.
Wow.
It is, though, isn't it?
Again, though, with Palace, I hate to give Alan Pardew any credit.
Ben, I was gonna jump in, and as you guys have slated Liverpool, I was going to come in on the other side and say Alan Pardew is actually beginning to grow on me as a manager.
I said they finished top 7 this season, and everyone laughed.
It's really, and he's used Kabay as the key to unlock this, but they have, it appears, to be able to really kind of adapt to the team they're playing and be able to get the results against a wide variety of different teams.
10 away wins, only Arsenal have more this calendar
exactly.
year in the Premier League.
And that is credit to Pardew and how he can adapt to the teams that he's playing when they kind of impose their style on you away from home. He's able to prepare quite well tactically to figure them out and win. The question is whether they can do that consistently at home, which has been their problem. But what they seem to do at home a lot more is to kind of bombard teams with the wingers, and that can work. But if you're playing a very well organised team at home, sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's where they've struggled. But he's really starting to impress me with the way that he's adapting to the teams that he's playing, which is what all the best managers do.
Yeah,
I did think Crystal Palace were taking the piss a little bit when they brought on Joe Ledley and Connor Wickham. Like, I was thinking, are they taking the mickey, and then they go and score after both those changes, and I'm thinking it's some kind of weird genius.
To give them some credit, I mean, in the league, they've not had a striker score a goal yet. So, I mean, make of that what you will.
Does Balassi or Saka not count as strikers, though? Because I feel like in a lot of games they get deployed so high up, they are essentially like...
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I was going to make the point that Balassi and Zaha, I will put this to you now, is there a better wing combination in the Premier League right now than those two?
I'd actually take Sacco over Zaha.
That's interesting.
Would you?
I think Zaha plays as more of a striker for them, whereas Sacco is more of that.
I don't know if I agree with that at all. I think Zaha plays on the right.
Yeah.
And floats from the right, and almost plays with the positioning of a Ramdeuter in like a Thomas Muller style, but it's more direct and.
But then where does Sacco play? Because Sacco gets a lot of their goals from cutting in on the right. I feel like that's the advantage they've got, is they're so blessed. You've got, this is going to sound ridiculous, they've got Zaha, Balassi, Sacco and Jason Puncheon. And whichever way you look at it, that's like a fairly decent front four.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like a top four strike force.
It's not great, is it? I mean, it's good, but it's not like you look at some of the front fours in the Premier League, compare that to City's. I mean, it's nowhere close.
Yeah, but then I think it's a different calibre of team. I think if you compare them to any team outside the top 6, that's like rivals any top.
What I'm saying is Pardew's getting the best out of that.
That's exactly what I was about to say. What he does, which is so impressive, and what he's continued to do, all of those players, when they come on, they know exactly what their role is. And yes, they might not be the most complete players. If you look at someone like Balassi, he doesn't score a lot of goals, he doesn't contribute too much defensively, and his link-up play isn't fantastic. But him and Zaha and Sacco, who I actually think has been a really good signing because he's so direct, he fits with the way they play perfectly. All of them know their roles really, really well. They know exactly what they've got to do, whether they're away from home or they're at home, depending on the fullbacks they're playing, and they are always the key to their success. And I think that is a really good sort of testament to how he's adapted the team to fit what they need to do.
I think a lot of teams in the Premier League this year have got identity crises, and there's one team that doesn't have that at all, and it's Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And just following on from your point, I look at a lot of teams in this league and I think you don't know we're 12, 13 games in, you still don't know what your best team is. Whereas with Palace, they absolutely know what their best team is. They're lacking a striker and they're still in 8th. I mean, they're not scoring like a lot of goals, but they're still where they are.
I think the issue for Liverpool is that I think the best team is very much form dependent with the side.
Yeah,
and at the moment, with no one being in
for
form,
half a game, every game, 45 minutes, just crap.
That's what I mean. Like, no one's in form. Like, if you pick the team based off form, I think you'd have and granted, the form's been awful, but if you could pick them best off form, I wouldn't say that's the best players in terms of actual skill ceiling.
We have half an hour of every game. We look great. We look like the best team in the league. But for the rest of it, we look like we don't know each other. And Jordan Henderson is a huge loss. I'll go on about it until he's back. As soon as Henderson's back, I tell you now, Liverpool's form. We'll go on a game. We'll go on a run with 10 games without defeat as soon as Henderson's back. I dare say it.
I don't think he'll be fit for 10 games. They've got a horrible. I don't want to jinx it.
That would be awful, but I'm hoping as soon as he comes back, he will revolutionise our team a little bit. Not revolutionise, but put
galvanise.
It back on. But yeah, galvanise is a far better word. Yeah, I think he will be key to Liverpool's success this season. Let's move on then.
There were other matches.
There are other matches, but I feel like that was one of the more goal-heavy ones this weekend.
Yeah.
We can't not talk about Jamie Vardy. Leicester 2, Watford 1. Disappointing loss for Watford after a good win last weekend, but Leicester...
Never.
Okay.
Never has there been...
What do we do about Leicester?
Never has there been...
Jack, what are you going to do, mate?
Never has there been a more certain triple captain fantasy selection than Jamie Vardy to score.
The issue I have with Jamie Vardy...
Oh, no.
No, hear me out.
I can't take this much longer.
I don't want to like him, but he's growing on me horrifically. It's a bit like that pet that you don't really want. It's a bit like the pet that you don't really want, and then your girlfriend brings it in the house and he just grows on you, becomes one of the... I don't want to like him, but he's earning my respect.
Jack, I'll sum up for you, mate. Anyone that's ever had a status on social media that says, chat shit, get banged, is a terrible bloke, right? But if you score in 9 consecutive Premier League games, you deserve respect as a footballer, and that's all I'm giving you.
I agree.
Because it's a fantastic record. I mean, Jack, how long can Leicester do this for? It's getting silly now.
I don't know. I mean, they've won by 1 goal again.
But
every week they win by 1 goal. They're going to be like, they've won. And Gomez was the man of the match, really, wasn't he? He had a howler in goal.
Yeah, but Leicester looks so good. Like every week.
I did.
To the point where Ranieri can't believe it at this point. He just doesn't know Ranieri can't believe his luck. I thought they'd go down. I don't know what's going on.
They only need 13 more points to be safe for the season.
That's what I mean, yeah.
A
few points, actually, from that game. One, it was nice to see a bit of vintage Aurelio Gomez back, sort of bringing back the kind of
I feel like they've missed that for a little while, actually.
Yeah, he's not, because he went back after, having his Spurs time when, that the legend was created. Then he went to Watford and he sort of rebuilt his career and played, well, not rebuilt his career, but you know what I mean, rebuilt his sort of...
Rebuilt is a very generous
reputation.
word.
He's been really consistent for them, came back up with them, and then he drops another one. And
I've got a great little story about Gomez. Can I?
Yeah, go on.
I'll sit comfortable. Gather around the fire, children.
Jack, you may well know about this, but I'm not sure Kino will.
Is this the Norwich game?
This is the Norwich game.
Excellent.
Where Aurelio Gomez is such a predictable goalkeeper when it comes to being a little bit eccentric that Norwich once set up for a game by saying, we're going to chip him. Professional football level. and they did it twice as well.
It was last season. You can probably find the highlights somewhere, but he did get dinked twice in one game. And it was
Bradley Johnson came out afterwards and said, yeah, we had a plan before the game to lob the goalkeeper. It was like...
it's like when you're a little kid and you're like, you can barely touch the crossbar and you kind of go to the game at the start of a Sunday morning and you look at the goalkeeper and go, well, he can't reach the crossbar, aim high.
You'd win about 8-0 and he'd be jumping for every shot. I remember it well.
Exactly.
They'll tell you what, they were my favourite games. But yeah, I love the fact of Premier League. And now a Premier League goalkeeper has got a flaw so much that teams literally have got they're pinpointing the mistakes he will make to exploit them. I think that's fantastic.
To be fair to Gomez, he's been really good apart from that game.
Yeah, I think but he's given us an opportunity, Kino, and we're not going to let it go because it's funny. So yeah, sorry, Aurelio, but it was hilarious.
Mahrez should have taken the penalty, but he gave it to Vardy, which I thought was very noble of my favourite Leicester player. So,
can we all make a prediction now? Obviously, he's been called up for England. How long will the run go on for? I'm going to go. Will he beat the other record? Is it 12
get injured
or
for
10?
England?
Well, they've got Newcastle next game in the league, and so if he doesn't get in, well, actually, his run would carry on if he gets. That's a good question. If he gets injured, does the run carry on?
It does. Van Nistelrooy is over 2 seasons.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But there might not have been a game in between. He might have just literally carried on from the beginning of the last season from the end of the last season to the beginning of the new one. But if he doesn't get injured, I reckon I can see him scoring again against Newcastle and equaling the record.
And then it's United, then it's Swansea, then it's Chelsea. I mean, there's goals in all them. I mean, well, actually,
not
United's
so. That's the thing. That's the key one.
It'd be very Newcastle for them just to defend for the entire game and just ensure a 0-0, and so Vardy doesn't get the record just out of spite.
Oh, yeah. Steve McLaren's a nice man. I don't think he'd do that.
Check Tiote to get man of the match. I'm calling it now. He's going to mark Vardy out the game.
In before he gets red carded after 3 minutes for headbutting.
Actually, it should be said, we're just quickly on Leicester. A lot of credit has obviously gone to Vardy and Mahrez because, you know, the goals and the assists. I
like where you're going with this, Callum.
Ex-villain Mark Albrighton has also been really, really good.
Okay, that's
really big.
That's literally not what I thought you were going to say.
He's been really, really good. He's probably playing the best football that I've seen him since he first broke into the Villa team. And there's quite a few other players like Drinkwater in the middle who have kind of been unsung heroes for the team, while Vardy and Mahrez have been grabbing the headlines. But yeah, they're all...
Are you starting a Danny Drinkwater for England campaign? Is that what's happening?
Once my Pardew for England one has been completed, yes.
I just want to make sure that Danny Drinkwater is actually English. Yeah, born in Manchester. We're good. I thought you were going to say Ranieri, Callum.
Still not a big fan.
How much credit goes to him? Because everyone slagged off Leicester. Well, I mean, when...
He's going to end up at Chelsea again. I can see it now.
When Pearson was sacked, admittedly it was under a cloud, really, of his son being another terrible bloke. A lot of people were saying that Leicester had made a bit of a risky decision getting Ranieri, and I stand by that because I was one of these people. But in fairness to Ranieri, no one would have predicted this at all. His players get a lot of credit. But he's still got to get a little bit of applauded.
He has.
You applaud it, Callum.
I do feel, and I was one of those as well who was quite sceptical when they made the appointment. I think a lot of people were, particularly after his time with Greece. But he does have a good CV, it must be said. But I think a lot of the foundations of this team, particularly at the back, and also just sort of the character they show. I think Pearson, towards the end of last year, they were the foundations that he laid. And I think maybe a little bit more credit should go to Nigel Pearson than is probably given at the moment, because it's pretty much they've made some good additions. Gökhan Inler, although they bought him, can't get in the team, but Kante, who scored, he's been really good for them as well. So that was one signing that they did make, but a lot of that team is the one that Pearson brought up from the Championship.
The spirit of Nige lives on.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see after he's had a little bit longer whether Ranieri can keep the momentum going, kind of like Martinez at Everton. When he immediately took over from Moyes and took all the good bits from the Moyes team and then sort of added to it. Be interesting to see if he can carry that on. I hope he does, because it's great to see a team like Leicester in the top four.
Yeah.
There's been a sacking. There's been a...
What, live?
Gary Bowyer. Sorry, I wanted to make you think it was Mourinho and see how you reacted.
Okay, Gary Monk's on the chopping block apparently.
Well, we are recording on a Tuesday this week, so it's a little bit later because international break.
Behind the curtain, jeez.
Well, they're going to know, aren't they, when it appears on Tuesday?
We'll talk about Manchester United in a moment, but I just want to touch on Norwich's win against Swansea. Hence, I thought Gary Monk's like genuinely being talked about as getting the next manager to be sacked.
I feel like at one point, I feel like 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were like, love Swansea, nice stable club.
Well, you mentioned it. You said, do you think Gary Monk's at risk of getting sacked? I went, well, I don't think so. And then, I think me and Kina both did. And now it looks like
I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
there was a point where you did look quite good. I'm going to go find the audio recording and stick it in the podcast at the end. That's too much effort, but...
It'll be interesting to see what Swansea do, because didn't they sacked Laudrup after a poor start to a season?
I think they just sacked him because they didn't really like him anymore. They're just a bit bored.
It's a weird reason to sack a manager. I
feel like Swansea are like that club where they look really stable on the face of it, but they just get through kind of partners because they just get bored of them. Like, that's my thinking behind it all. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I need a new one. I'm bored. Need a new plaything.
What a lovely thought. But Norwich, Jack, have actually finally done something. They've won an actual football match.
They scored, and they kept a clean sheet, which, I mean, I don't know what the odds on both those things happening were for Norwich, but you would have got good odds.
Well, is it their first clean sheet this season? I'm pretty sure it is.
It must be, because I can't remember another one. I mean, the fact that they've relied on Howson, who... I don't like Johnny Howson. I don't feel like he brings that much to Norwich.
Do you know? I think he's all right.
I think it confused me when they sold Johnson and kept Howson, because I feel like if you had the choice, you'd probably do it the other way round and get rid of Howson and keep Johnson. That was my take on it. But he did get the goal.
And Mbakani with the header, nodded down.
I love Mbakani. I don't know if it's his name, I don't know if it's his persona. He just seems to have a bit of an energy about him.
He's a bit like Key Kamara, who did well in the MLS this week, funnily enough.
He looks a bit... I'm trying to think what he looks... He looks like if you taught an elephant how to do ballet. That's how... He frolics around the pitch with a weird grace and elegance you just don't expect to see.
I mean, that'll be a quote for next season. Who said this about who? But yeah, I appreciate that. So... Swansea lose again. Gary Monk's future in a little bit of doubt. And now Manchester United. Now, Callum, in the notes for Manchester United, you have noted that Juan Mata is of great importance to that team. How important, Callum? How important?
The stat that I put down there was that since he joined almost 2 years ago, last January, the January before, he's been involved in more United goals since any other player for the team. Which I think, although he doesn't always get a game and he's often played out of position, is a real testament to how important he actually is and how consistent he's been in a very, very sort of rocky spell for the club. A lot of players have been coming in and going out. To see him continue, because there were a lot of questions when he made that move under Moyes, to see him continue that form for consistently that he showed at Chelsea is really good, because I really like Mata as a player. And although he gets slated a lot for his lack of pace and maybe defensive duties, because obviously that was the reason he got kicked out from Chelsea, he has a lovely way of playing, and he sort of gets involved in a number of different ways. And I think he's more important to that United team than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah, you also, and I'm pleased you put this in the notes actually, because I wanted to bring this up too, that United's fans' reaction to Louis van Gaal right now is a little bit it's sort of smiling through gritted teeth, isn't it? It's kind of going, oh yeah, he's doing a good job. I'm really pleased with how things are going. But actually, this isn't what they want. They don't want to win like this. They don't want to be seen as this team that have to grind out victories. But is Louis van Gaal in 2 or 3 years' time, when he's probably not in the job, going to get an immense amount of credit for building this foundation to leave a manager like Ryan Giggs with, is the question. Anyone?
I think he's strengthened the team really well. I also like the fact he's brought in a few players who perhaps haven't been given a chance in the last few years. Namely, I guess Jesse Lingard as a player who, I mean, with Depay coming into the team, it just didn't really seem like there was a space for him in the team. You kind of looked at that team and go, where the hell does Lingard fit in? And, well, I don't even think you'd consider him, to be honest. I don't think it even was a thought. But he scored a pretty nice goal in this game.
Oh, it was very casual, wasn't it?
And he's kept Depay out the team, and Depay didn't even come on off the bench. I mean, you've got, is it Borthwick Jackson, who's another young product of the United Academy? It's good to see them doing well, and it's good to see those players coming through, because I don't feel that they were perhaps given as much of a chance as you'd expect under the likes of Moyes and even Sir Alex Ferguson to some extent. I have always stood by the kind of idea that, I guess during Ferguson's last few seasons at United, he stopped kind of thinking about the club's legacy and kind of what he'd leave, but I guess the club's future, and more focused on his legacy.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like he really focused on winning that league. I think that, you know, when they lost the league to City, who beat QPR, and there was the Aguero moment, it was kind of like that left a very sour taste until there was this like real focus on winning the league. And as you said, I think it is a task at United to get this team in a position whereby whoever takes the reins, because Van Gaal isn't going to be a long-term manager, you don't expect. I think that is to really take over.
I think that's a very good point, because obviously United have got a lot of stick recently for the way that they've been playing, and Van Gaal, from the media, from other fans, and particularly from their own fans. But what Van Gaal's had to do, which I think it's often underestimated, he has had to rebuild sort of from zero. He's had to reset like the cycle that Ferguson had got the team into over 20 years. He's had to start basically from blank. From obviously the Moyes era, which is a bit of a false start, he's had to start again and sort of re-begin that cycle. And obviously everyone expects Giggs to come and take over in at the end of next season, and you'd expect that all the foundations would be there for him to go and take it and run with it and then kick them on again. And so that job that Van Gaal is actually doing is incredibly difficult, and the fact that they're only 1 point off the top of the league while he's doing this, and they could well win the league this season if they could do that, or even next year, during this rebuilding process.
Be an incredible achievement.
It would be. So I think people are probably being quite harsh on the fact that they're obviously going through a changing period. And that's obvious to see just by the way that their performances are kind of fluctuating. And now they've managed to settle with this strong defence. And they can't convert going forward right now. But they're obviously going through this transition. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for the fact that they're only 1 point off at this point in the season.
Yeah, 2 points.
2 points.
but yeah, I'd be interested to know if Van Gaal sees the way you've both described it there. I was listening. I was thinking, I wonder if Van Gaal sees it like that. I wonder if Van Gaal actually thinks he's there short term to set this club up for Ryan Giggs, or if he actually thinks he's just doing the best job he can.
I think he's set up for David Moyes. Return. I mean, he's been sacked.
No man can set it. No man can set it up for a David Moyes return.
Can I just say, David Moyes is going to end up getting the Swansea job in a few weeks, and we're all going to kind of shrug our shoulders and go, "That was weird."
I mean, Villa have dodged a bullet. I'll say that much. The thing is, David Moyes, as we joke about it, but he's not a bad manager. He just fell into a very unfortunate set of circumstances, and then decided to just go to Spain.
Well, he got sacked after 364 days at the club in Spain. Is it Sociedad? I can't actually remember. Actually,
it is Sociedad.
But they sacked him 1 day before his year kind of was up, and I can only assume that was because there was some clause in his contract which meant like either got a wage rise, and they were just like, right, we need to get rid of him now.
If you're still manager, we'll double that. He's like, oh, great, yeah, I'll do it. Actually, I'll do. Jack, which role do you want to play in a role play?
I'm not doing a role play, Ben. Let's move on to the next game. We've already run an hour long into this podcast. We've not talked about the joys that were Bournemouth Newcastle. We've not talked about West Ham Everton. We've not talked about Stoke Chelsea, which I mean.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it in that order then.
Sunderland Southampton are 2.
Bournemouth. I'm really worried about Bournemouth now. I'm at that point where they were so much better than Newcastle. Newcastle were horrendous. I don't know what happens to Newcastle week on week. I don't know what Newcastle do during the week. It's baffling. Newcastle had, I think, 2 or 3 shots, got a goal. Bournemouth looked the better side throughout. If I'm Eddie Howe, I'm just.
I've got this image in my head there. At the end of the season, there's going to be a reality TV show release called like Geordie Shore with Newcastle United, and it's just going to be the escapades behind the scenes of Newcastle United for the season, and they'll kind of lift the curtain off.
And McLaren would play some sort of Hugh Hefner. Type role in and around the training ground. Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
Let's be honest, Setanta Sport are probably thinking this is their big reboot show.
Imagine coming back with no, because it wouldn't be called Geordie Shore. It needs a better name. It needs to be called something like Out on the Toon, something like that. Thank you. I mean, if
you can get McLaren's name into a pun, but if anyone's got name ideas, tweet them at ForTheFans Show.
Okay, so Callum. After a brief moment of, I mean, if you want to hear what's just gone on there, stay tuned till the end of the show.
A very abrupt cut just there. But...
Jack's going to splice in what's just happened there. Because it can't be part of the proper show. It wasn't very
football-y, was it?
We've been decided it can't be part of the proper show. So we're going to go straight to Twitter questions.
Okay.
Callum,
hello. This is Twitter questions.
This is your moment. He's ready. He's got a list in front of him.
Always wanted.
At Matthew Blanchard, at Bland27, Bland asks, and this is hinting at what we might be doing next week. At ForTheFans Show, not a question, but talk about the FA Cup for a bit, please. Easily the best competition in the country at the moment. So I was thinking we could maybe do a little bit of FA Cup chat about the first and second rounds in our little international mini show next weekend. What do you say?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I think we can definitely touch on it because there's been a lot of interesting results in the FA Cup.
I want to talk about the goalkeeper overhead kick for Holbeach.
This kind of goes back to the Gary Monk situation, which is quite interesting. At Isaac Southstrom asks, should the manager ever be bigger than the club? For instance, the Mourinho situation, but you could apply it to something like Gary Monk with the way that they're kind of quickly looking to move him on. What do you think?
Is that in terms of giving him time, then?
I think
is that what that's referring
possibly.
To?
It could, in maybe if you were relating it back to Mourinho, in the way that the fact that Mourinho wasn't there, we've got Chelsea at the end of the show. We've not even mentioned it, and I think part of it was the fact that he wasn't even at the match.
I think Ferguson used to often say there was no player bigger than the club, and the interesting point about that was I think Ferguson always believed that the manager was the most important part of any club. But I think any owner will tell you that they make every decision that actually matters. And the Ferguson thing's obviously a very rare case. So to answer the question, I think on occasion the manager is probably bigger than the club. I think generally speaking, owners have got such a sort of tight grasp now on how their club is run that because of the money that's at stake, that's no longer the case. But yeah, I mean, feel free to chip in, boys.
I agree with that. It's interesting about that you mentioned Ferguson, because I think he was one, and maybe even if you look at Arsene Wenger, the managers that have been able to sort of continue for such a long period have almost had a personality or a kind of culture that is as big as the club. They're synonymous with the club, and maybe that
it's arguably what's kept Wenger in the job all this time.
And maybe that's an issue with why clubs go through managers so much nowadays, and it could be a barrier to their success.
I'll be disappointed if Monk gets sacked, though. I'll be really disappointed.
I
think
totally
he's done
agree.
a good job.
Yeah,
I won't be surprised.
Another kind of sort of quite theoretical, interesting question. Andrew Webb at the Nuneaton Fox, nice name, Nuneaton Nimmy, at ForTheFans show, with many close matches this weekend, do you think the Premier League has become potentially more competitive, or that's what he asks. Do you think teams are closer together now? Do you think there's more sort of scope for movement? I mean, if you look at Leicester in the top 4.
I think there's a bizarre trend, and this is just in general in football, and it's kind of almost an anti-football movement, whereby there's a lot more teams able to win games without not necessarily kind of dominating matches. And I think it strongly favours the smaller teams. Because I can't remember who it was now, but there was a manager who talked about the fact that he didn't actually want possession, because when you have possession, you're more likely to make mistakes, and mistakes are what lead to goals. And it's kind of, I feel like it's an evolution really that's happened, and it happens more often in the Premier League than I think it does in other leagues. And I don't think it's a complacency, and I think it's just the fact that even the smaller teams have that spark of quality, at least in one player.
Yeah, I actually, I don't know, Ben, do you want to hop in?
No,
I think that it's been a trend in the last few years, and actually Danny Higginbottom, who is a shit player, but he's a really good pundit, and he wrote an article, I think in the Sunday Times a couple of weeks ago, about...
Shit player? Hang on, who are you, John Taylor?
No, I'm Robbie Savage.
No, he's Robbie.
Yeah. He made a really good point about the fact that this season, more than any other, it seems, that counter-attacking has really sort of just become almost the dominant play style in the league, because teams are, especially modern football, players are so much more athletic than they used to be, really well drilled. You see, the fact that we were able to hold City to a draw at the weekend, and Palace were able to win in that fashion, is a testament to that fact. Counter-attacking seems to be the way that most teams would prefer to play, and as Jack says, that means that often it actually favours the smaller or the away team. And you see...
Well, it goes back to what we said about Palace. I mean, Palace is the great link here, I think, because Palace are the team that have adopted that, realised it and gone, well, that's
they
what
are
we'll
almost
do
the best example of that.
Yeah.
And West Ham also a little bit this season. And we've also seen it on a much higher level, someone like Real Madrid winning the Champions League in the way that they took apart Bayern Munich a few years ago at the Allianz Arena. Almost exclusively, they destroyed the Bayern in terms of goals, but almost every other stat was against them, and they still scored 5. And the counter-attacking that was possibly, I think, if you were trying to point at a game that really kind of ushered in that idea, that was the time when people thought this is a way that we can really get results. I
think the best example might be, was it Mourinho when he won the Champions League?
Possibly Inter, but almost they were a little bit less reliant on the pace, and they were so well organised and well drilled at the back, and they didn't have a huge amount of pace.
They would work the ball up the pitch. I should point out,
they didn't win the Champions League that year, did they?
They won a treble.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah. They did. But I wasn't thinking of the actual final. Was it against Barcelona or Real Madrid where they played them in the semis?
They played Barcelona. They played Barcelona in the semi-final, and that was possibly and they did work the ball slower at the pitch. I think Real Madrid are the best. Real Madrid 2013-14 were possibly the best example of this kind of style that a team like Palace has kind of taken, and a lot of teams in the Premier League have taken and started to use. So when
Di Maria was ridiculous.
Yeah, and they had the BBC at their height, possibly. They might come back there, but yeah.
All right, have we got any more questions, or are we wrapping this up?
I think we'll wrap it up there, because a lot of them we've already answered. I mean, it tends to get to that point, but we had a lot. A lot of questions this week. At ForTheFans show on Twitter, come and join in.
Thank you. Stay tuned, listeners, because there is a special bit after the end of the jingle.
Got my head in my hands.
If you'd like to stay in contact with us, iTunes, For The Fan Show, youtube.com/ForTheFanShow, at ForTheFanShow, as Keno rightly mentioned, for your questions. Also, tweet us things throughout the week. We had quite a few things throughout the week, so I appreciate those being sent in too. Jack, Keno, anything you'd like to say before we go?
I just like people tweeting at us, telling us that we were wrong about things and what they think of what we said in the show. So if you don't necessarily just ask us questions, we like to hear what you guys think.
Yeah.
As someone said something completely wrong, and if you say it brutally enough, it might get read out. Yeah. Brutal tone again, that person.
Leave your reviews. I just want to do one little bit of earmarking. Me and Jack will be part of a charity stream coming up this weekend, the 14th, 15th. Obviously, there's international football, but we're doing a live show, 24 hours, with a bunch of Football Manager YouTubers raising money for War Child. If you've got time to come by and have a little watch, then do so. It starts at 6 o'clock on Saturday and ends at 6 o'clock on
GMT
Sunday.
In England.
On GMT, so our time, whatever that would be, wherever you are in the world, figure it out. So yeah, if you can come by and hang out, maybe support the charity, that'd be fantastic. From me, Jack and Keno, anything you'd like to quickly add?
Nope, none at all.
From me, Jack and Keno, it's been us for The Fan Show. We'll see you again. We love with care. Goodbye. You talk about another match. I'm going to think of McLaren-based puns.
Excellent. Keno, let's move on to Sunderland Southampton. Oh, I like this power. I feel like I'm Ben all of a sudden. What did you make of Sunderland Southampton? I mean, there wasn't that much to it. It was a penalty that decided it.
You're a lot more attractive all of a sudden, by the way. Go on.
What's more attractive?
What did you think?
I just...
Sunderland's football.
Can I just...
I mean, that's not really a compliment.
It should be an easy question. What do you think of Sunderland's football? But actually, when you think about that question in more depth, that is more challenging.
It's quite a difficult question when I try and think about Sunderland's football.
I mean, they've only conceded one from the penalty spot. I mean, could be worse.
The fact...
Oh, by the way, sorry, I know they did football, but forget that. Right, so...
This is leaving the rails, isn't it, quite quickly, this podcast?
We've got out on the toon, right, with the Newcastle side. Allardyce has gone up there. Obviously, they could come up with their own one. Now, that needs to name as... Carry on. I'll get a name.
I feel like Ben's going to be writing emails to the secretaries of both clubs. Like, we have a TV show. Here's the pitch. Are you interested?
I don't actually know what's going on right now.
Do you know? I feel like this show? There was a show in the 80s called Some Others Do Have 'Em. Have you heard of it?
Yes. Not seen that one. I've seen
Some of the listeners
Army.
might have done. They could. Some Mothers Do Mackham. It can be called, and it'll be about the mums of Sunderland. Some Mothers Do Mackham. And the mums of Sunderland will have to. They each take in a Newcastle United player, and
it's like a French exchange.
Yes, it's like because Newcastle have got a lot of French players.
So good. That makes sense.
That could be the link, and it will actually. Do you know what? It won't even be on in England. It will just be for French TV, and all of a sudden there'll be this cult following for Newcastle and Sunderland from the French. I don't know from France. I don't need to say French.
Half of Canada will get on board too.
Yeah, I think Remy Gard will want to be part of that, Callum. That's a fear factor for you there.
Can I just say, I don't know how this happens, but it gets to the hour mark in every show, and the entire show just derails, and we go off on a weird tangent. I feel like
everyone's done with football, including me. I feel like the football section's done for an hour, and we talk about current affairs. What else has been going on in the news?
Do you want to do... Well, I was going to say, do you want to do some Twitter questions before we finish, which needs to happen?
Can we just talk about Stoke-Chelsea? Stoke fans, you must be delighted with that result. Chelsea fans...
No one cares, by the way, about this game because Mourinho wasn't there.
I know. So, I was a bit annoyed because I kind of wanted to hear what he said after the game. I was almost hoping there'd be, like journalists sat in the hotel room with him as he sat there in his travel lodge watching the match, and they're all interviewing him during the game.
Can I just say, if we get to 2 weeks' time, right, and I don't know who Chelsea play next, I think it's Norwich. If journalists would go... There's news in that if Chelsea don't win this, Mourinho will be sacked. 4 weeks now, that is, by the way. If he doesn't win this, he'll be sacked. And then just every single week, he just stays in the job. So
you know what's going to happen? They're going to keep losing, and they're going to keep saying it's going to be his last game, and then he's going to win a game and he'll be sacked. That's how it's going to go down.
I'm just thinking how we can get the Angel of the North involved.
I mean, Keno, should we talk about West Ham Everton? I mean, I'm lucky here because Lukaku was in my team, fantasy captain. Forgot to change it from last week, but it worked out.
Lukaku has scored, I think, in his last 6 games against West Ham. So, yeah, that was a good fantasy pick. Makes sense.
What did you make of Lanzini's goal too? I quite enjoyed that. The curling finish. Far post, keeper, no chance.
I thought it was nice. I liked it, yeah.
Oh, stop. Can I just say this is going totally off the rails.
What do you mean?
This bit.
So?
Alright.
What rails are we on?
Keno's derailed us twice now on this show.
Keno stops to go, it's gone off the rails.
Well, I mean, should we have a bit of focus to end?
Why?
Because people might want to hear
if they've got an hour in,
questions.
If they want an hour in, you know, they're loving it.
Have you got any puns?
Right, well, this is just it. Where are we editing this in? Ben, you say you're Angel of the North line again.
I'm just... Like context, it does seem daft, I admit. I'm just seeing where we can get the...
I've lost
You've broken the podcast colour point.
No, I haven't.
I feel like we should keep that bit in where Keno goes...
You can put that.
Go from the Angel of the North again.
Keno says it, and I'm like, "What do you mean?"
You can put that at the beginning. That can be the intro before the music starts. It can just be. It's gone off the rails bit here. What do you mean? And then it starts. And guys,
right.
To be fair, 65 minutes passed, and it just turned into mush. So.
No, that's what happened in our.
Keno's here for like proper football punditry. Fuck off. This is not. I'm talking about Newcastle.
You can put that bit in as well.
That could be the name of the podcast. Keno's here for punditry. Fuck off.
No, inflatable snakes. Right. I'm just seeing how we can get the Angel of the North.
Fuck it. Get on. Right, is everyone still recording?
We need to. Do you know what we need to do? Like
I'm gonna go from the bit where I go. I'll just mention West Ham and Everton, and then we'll move on to the Twitter questions.
All right, I enjoy editing that.
Do you want to put that extended bit at the end as a little Easter egg?
It's not really an Easter egg, is it? If they listen to the end.
The Ramble do that actually, where they'll just have like 30 seconds.
Hey, you gotta mention.
No, you don't have to put this bit in. But I mean, this
bit can't be put in.
They have that bit where they just have 30 seconds of chat.
This is all staying in. Anything you want to say now is going at the end of the podcast. Hello, viewers. I've watched behind the scenes. We've pulled back the curtain.
The Angel of the North only cost £800,000.
Is it made out of wood? What is Angel of the North made out of?
Stay with me.
It'd blow over.
It's just made out of steel. Oh. Made out of steel. What did you say? Made out of wood?
It's like a big Trojan horse.
They carved the Angel of the North. Oh God!
I thought that's all they had up north. Wood.
Oh, you don't put that bit in. Right.
You're mad.
Anyway.
I went to uni up north. Really.
Maybe we could call the whole. Maybe we could bring out a box set called Angels of the North.
Well, maybe that's the series name, and it's about the mums, and they are the angels.
That could well be it.
Yeah.
Right, well,
great.
I'm glad we've got that sorted. Should we go back to West?
Sure, yeah.